Live. And it tells me that this Hangout on air is live. So welcome everybody to Minecraft Ed Afterchat, the place where we come to hang out just after the Minecraft Ed chat with our hosts of the evening, and we cover the various topics or the various questions that we discussed that night. We cover the highlights of those and get into a little bit more details on what we were talking about. For those of you who are watching live, please feel free to ask any questions. And if you gentlemen want to go ahead and tweet it out, or if any of you guys are watching live and want to tweet it out on Twitter, you can do so through the hashtag MinecraftEd. That'll be perfectly fine. So I want to introduce our fantastic host for the evening. We've got Andrew Peterson from, you know what, introduce yourself.
All right, Andrew Peterson. I'm from Ferris State University. I'm an instructional technologist here, and in order to kind of keep my sanity while doing that kind of stuff,
I think we've just, there we go.
And I'm working with faculty and incorporating games into their curriculum.
Perfect. And we also have Mark Stevens, who also works at the University of, or who works at the University of BSGU, right? Bowling Green State?
Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio. I am in the College of Education and Human Development. I'm a technology instructor. I work with undergraduates moving up through early, middle childhood, and adolescent young adult, which is high school teachers. And then I also work with our classroom technology master's program, and there I'm teaching with in-service teachers who are coming back and earning a master's degree in classroom technology. And right now, heavily working with Minecraft EDU in both areas and having a lot of success.
Awesome. So tonight's chat topic was using Minecraft, or using game design, I should say, implementing game design for pre-service teachers. So the discussion was really jumping between where does Minecraft make a good tool for pre-service teachers to kind of get their heads wrapped around game design. But a lot of the discussion was focused on, is it important to properly implement game-based learning and to teach educators a little bit about game design so that we become more comfortable with games in the classroom and we get stronger results. So we're going to go through this in the same process we went through the last couple of weeks. It's going to be Q1, Q2, Q3, and we're going to pick out some of the highlights that we saw come out of the chat, and these fine gentlemen who have vast amounts of experience working with pre-service teachers on this are also going to give some key points that, you know, couldn't just come out in 140 characters. So if you, the audience, are watching, please feel free to ask your questions, and as well, if you're looking at this post, for those of you who have come here looking for the highlights of the evening's chat, then please, by all means, ask your questions in the comment section down below on the YouTube video itself, the on-demand video, and I'm sure one of these fine gentlemen will be checking it. I know I will as well, and if there are questions that they can answer or that that we can't answer, we'll make sure that it's passed on back and forth. So, again, make it very interactive, everybody. So the first question that we had tonight, and I'm going to let either of you guys kind of field your first, what was the best response that you saw coming out of the community is this question one, which is what characteristics of games are important for driving the best results in the classroom and why? So what do you think, Andrew, was one of the big ones that came out there that drives an important characteristic?
So we kind of touched on this a little bit later on, but kind of the value of failure and that iterative process in games. I really liked touching on that because it's so non-intuitive in educational settings to go, wait, failure? No, that's a horrible word. Nobody likes it. Don't do it. Don't go there. And in a game, it's expected. It's designed. I mean, any game you don't fail in is a horrible game.
Exactly.
And so just having that kind of expectation of you're going to fail, you're going to have to learn, you're going to have to overcome, and incorporating that from a game into a classroom was kind of one of my big takeaways there.
You know, I did a presentation recently for a large group of educators at QnA Ed, and you know, one of the two key slides that I looked at was, you know, somebody with an apple on a silver platter, and if I hand you that apple on a silver platter, it's going to taste like an apple. It's going to taste good. But then the other picture was a young child reaching up to this apple tree, climbing up and almost reaching for that golden fruit. Which one do you think is going to be more memorable?
The one they earn.
The one that required effort.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I saw that point come out in the very beginning as well. It just an absolutely fantastic point. Failure is one of those key things in games that we really need to start driving into education, and not just failure itself, but challenge. You know, make it difficult for them to get the information. If they have to kind of, you know, pull teeth to get it, I don't mean pull teeth. But if they have to do hard work to get it, and I'm not talking hard work as in, you know, write on the blackboard 50 times or 80 times or fill out a worksheet, but something that's engaging, the results are going to be there. Mark, what about yourself? Any comments on that, or do you think that there was another point that you felt?
You know, what I'm working with my students in my middle childhood class is, you know, this is another way to engage students. And the narrative piece, I think, was, you know, something that's always been interesting to me, and you know, I think will make this whole process very. I lost my train of thought, but I think it will just make it work. And so we're working on immersion, we're working on narrative, and that engagement piece with the students, and we're having quite a bit of success. So I agree that the failure is an interesting piece, and yes. You know, it's a safe way to fail. You know, it's not like I'm failing that test and blowing, you know, 100 points or whatever in my class. But you know, on the flip side, I want to engage my students and actively have them learning, and through that immersion piece and the engagement pieces that we're creating, that will hopefully work.
Yeah, Dr. Sam, I think it's Facich, F-E-C-I-C-H, made that comment about the narrative and the plot and taking that from the games and putting that in the classroom. And I really like that, not necessarily for Minecraft, but I use a lot of role-playing scenarios in the classroom, and is so driven by the narrative. I mean, that's all it is. Anytime you're looking at role-playing games without a narrative, that's nothing.
Right, and what we're trying to do with custom NPCs in the Minecraft EDU program is to bring that MMORPG narrative questline style into Minecraft, and giving them that game immersion, you know, through that piece. So it's, you know, it's right now we're still learning how and what that's going to look like, but we're getting better at it.
Well, I was going to say, and I'll make a point in terms of narrative. And again, one of the things that I always talk about in educational game design is, you know, certain educational games will fit certain demographics, and certain genres of games will fit different things. But I'll tell you, when it comes to narrative, I think from an education standpoint, it's the most powerful tool. There are so many other types of games, and one of the things that you have to worry about when balancing game mechanics, and this is what I think all teachers need to start learning more about, is how do I use game mechanics to drive my classroom forward? It becomes very important. But you can't just choose one mechanic for everything. For example, you know, a shooter game where you're shooting between certain amounts of targets, if the activity of shooting becomes the overwhelming thought process, or that memorable piece of your game, then you've failed on the educational side. Right? Because all they're going to remember is the joy of shooting something or the joy of blowing something up. That's not to say stay away from shooting, stay away from battles, stay away from, you know, explosions and things like that, because it's a tremendous engagement point. But the role play, the narrative, that ability to immerse yourself in a character, in an environment, that is one of the key things that really creates that level of critical thinking that we're looking for as educators, and the level of deep reflection, not post-game, but within the game.
See, that's one thing that we kind of side-chatting on that a little bit during the conversation about how it's so natural, and, you know, narrative is everywhere. One of the role-playing games that I use, it's called Reacting to the Past, and it is. It's, you are given a character, you are given your own objectives, your own motivations, and you kind of own that character, you own that story, and then it's your history to make.
Absolutely. And getting involved in that and understanding that. I talk when I teach educators about game design and how to use it. The first iteration that I have them work on is role playing. because it's the easiest one to implement in Minecraft. And because Minecraft is such a versatile tool, you get to not just give them a scenario, not just a role-play scenario, but you can actually create the environment around them and set up certain challenges that relate and reflect to that environment. So yeah, use role-play if you're brand new to education, brand new to teaching with game mentality and game design. Role-play is your first place to start. But going back to make it challenging. Make it difficult, make it challenging, give them some opportunity for failure. We'll get some good results. All right, excellent points for question 1. Moving on, are we safe to move on to question 2?
I think so.
Okay, so Q2, have you ever received instruction PD on creating games and scenarios? We just talked about the importance of games and scenarios and implementing games. So while we're not going to answer whether we have received PD, we've given PD on game design, so we're on the flip side. But let's talk a little bit about why it's important and what benefits we can see as educators, as pre-service educators, whether we're looking at teaching it as a university course or whether we're looking at just going out and finding some MOOCs and things like that. What are the benefits to people out there?
Well, I think one of the benefits is preparing new teachers to teach in different ways. Or I think my approach is to give them a taste of emerging technologies, so that they aren't just stuck doing it the way we've been doing it for the last 100+ years in the classroom. I want them to actually think about engaging in different ways. So it's, in a way, it's educational change, kind of a grassroots style, by grabbing these pre-service teachers and giving them opportunities to work with things like Minecraft EDU or other technologies like 3D printing, things of that nature. So if we engage them with it now, they're more likely to go, oh, hey, maybe this would work in my class when I'm out in my real job, and able to engage with students on their own and use their own techniques for teaching. So you get them now, get them early, get them young, and then as the old guard retires, we've got the new guard to take it over, and they might be a bit more open-minded to engage this way.
See, and I have a little bit of a unique perspective on that, because in my role at the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning, I'm teaching the old guard, and they've had a fairly good adaptation to what I have to say. And then I also have kind of guest lectured for the School of Education. And what I found is, as soon as you kind of have that professional conversation about game-based learning, they're like, you see this everywhere now. So it's kind of almost like, you open the eyes, and then they're like, you see it here, you see it there, they're using it everywhere. They just didn't have a word for it and just thought of it as education. So it was being lumped into the big bucket rather than any specific one that they could even acknowledge.
This also opens up a point of conversation that was going on during the Twitter chat, and it's this sort of evaluation between gamification, game-based learning, and the fear surrounding them, and what they each mean. So we made a clear point of delineating between what's gamification versus game-based learning, and I think we should probably elicit that point here. So game-based learning, unless, Andrew, would you like to? You gave a very good, or Mark.
I think it was Andrew who gave a good definition of gamification.
Right, gamification, and from what I've seen, is basically just using game mechanics and game pieces and parts into your traditional learning environment. So it's grabbing badges, it's grabbing a leaderboard, it's having quests, it's having pieces and parts of what are traditionally found in game design into your curriculum.
Versus game-based learning, and I want to make a distinction that I see between the term mechanics and exchange it for the term elements. Sure. Because in gamification, what is really going on is you're using the elements as a motivational overlay on your classroom scenario. So the badges, they become the extrinsic motivator for doing something that students naturally don't want to do.
Homework achievement unlocked.
Exactly. Homework achievement. Congratulations, you're now a master of maths, right? And that's all well and good. And I think it's the first stage of getting to this engagement level that we want. But the reason why I've stolen that term or removed that term mechanics, because in games, the mechanic is actually, in game design, your mechanic is what activity takes place and how that activity functions as a control mechanism to drive a certain objective. So whether you want your player to learn how to jump over a particular distance, right? So that becomes important, and that is a game mechanic. You add that game mechanic where you've got your physics, you have to jump a certain distance. If you fail, then you fall and you die and you go to your death and you're nowhere. The element of that is if you succeed, the element becomes, hey, you get a badge. Congratulations, you made the jump, right? And what's interesting to think about in gamification versus game-based learning is if you just throw a badge on everything, if you just paint up and picturify, a worksheet, okay, you get a little bit more engagement because it's not the standard, but the novelty quickly wears off. However,
everybody gets a trophy day in education.
Yeah. And then if you take the mechanics and you actually, and this is why I think educators need to be trained as game designers, to some level, to some degree, need to understand at least the basics, because then you can start to think about it and say, okay, strategically, if I'm going to use a badge, how do I make sure that the badge is going to the right place? And is that really the driver of the lesson? No, it's the mechanics. I want students to understand physics, therefore I'm going to put a mechanic in my game that makes them fall a certain distance, at a certain speed, at a certain velocity, with certain consequences of falling super hard. And that's the mechanic that if you push the focus, the dialogue, the narrative, whatever other tools you're using, that's what drives the learning. And so it's just a unique distinction that I really like to make when talking about gamification versus game-based learning. But back to the point, and I'll ask you guys this question. Why is that important? So we've got these characteristics of games. We've got these PD. Does that illustrate the importance of helping teachers understand games? And when they do understand games, I think you mentioned it about, it's that comfort level. They understand it in a professional term. Does that PD really become the bridging point for people to lose a lot of that fear and the stigma of games as being, well, it's just a mental waste of time? That's my question to you guys for the audience.
Wow.
I was going to say, if you want to take a swing at that one, go ahead. Otherwise, I can.
I think my whole take on PDing the teachers and bringing them up to speed is that they're going to be developing good games. I mean, we can make something completely educationally sound in terms of a game, but if they don't have the proper elements instilled into this game, it's going to be boring, and I think it's going to turn the experience into, well, it's just another way for me to do a 20-problem math worksheet and not really make learning fun. So very important to PD these teachers and train them on how to be game designers so they can make engaging, fun games and not just bore the students.
See, and this is why we're looking at going with a full master's degree in game-based learning, because you go, like a 1-hour PD session, I think almost does more harm than good, because you get variants of Jeopardy. You get the other term that I've heard thrown around a lot is that chocolate-covered broccoli, where you go, it might taste a little bit better, but it's still broccoli. Not to offend anyone that likes broccoli, but it's one of those things where it needs more time, and really the only way I've seen that you get that is through immersion. I mean, it's through playing games, it's through really experience. The best way I've had for having teachers adopt this type of weird curriculum is make them experience it. Make them go to a conference, make them go to, I shouldn't say make them, offer them opportunities to do this kind of stuff. Because it's if you don't see something like this played, you're just like, I don't even know what that looks like in a class. How do I assess someone running around a room pretending they're Allen Ginsberg at a political conference in 1968 Chicago? I don't know what rubric to use.
Hey, that's a hugely important point. And Mark, I'm sure you were going to touch on this, but I'll field it to you. But there's another thing that PD in game-based learning really becomes strongly important, is if implemented incorrectly, I think, number one, it's going to interact inauthentically. in a way that is very, very unauthentic to students, and they will check out. I guarantee you, if you're a game player and you've seen somebody come to you and say, "Hey, we're going to play a game," and it's not a game, it's just Mary Poppins singing "Let's clean up the room," you're checking out. I'm sorry. If you're a gamer, you're going to say, "No, I don't want none of this. Yeah, you're forcing me to do this. I'm going to do it, but I don't want to pay any attention to it." Right? So that's your one point of conflict if it's not implemented correctly.
Right, and I think Minecraft goes a long way to making it easier for us to engage those students because it's a very popular, I mean, that's an understatement, very popular game. So we've got that batting for us.
For now.
For now. I mean, there's something down the line that's going to come, I'm sure, and we'll just be ready to engage with that when that comes. But, part of this too is working with those students who might not be gamers or might not know what Minecraft is. How do we engage them with this? Because it's totally foreign to them and they don't want to do it. So, that's going to be the true test. Is okay. We've got the Minecraft users. They're going to have fun, but is Jimmy or Sally who don't play games like this in a digital environment, are they going to be engaged and are they going to be turned on or turned off by it? That's a big consideration. So.
Right, it's hitting that critical mass.
I do want to make an interesting point about that. 92% of children between the age of 2 and 17, I think the statistics are, and this is going back from 2014 as well, play games.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I love about Minecraft is the fact that, and I'm exploring this very, very deeply, is you can create almost any type of game that people like to play. Mario Kart is in Minecraft. Okay? People have created Mario Kart. People have created Super Smash Brothers, or Super Smash in Minecraft. People have created Street Fighter. People have created Star Wars variants, World of Warcraft variants. All of this can be created in Minecraft. So it's very interesting because it becomes a tool that balances well for everybody, but only if you know how to use it and if you know how to apply it. The other interesting thing about Minecraft is the fact that it is connected, and I want to hammer on a point that you made, Mark, that it's got that engagement, that intrinsic engagement, because a lot of people like it. But beware of that, and I'm hoping I'm not preaching here, but it's a relevant point. It needs to be understood. Beware of the engagement that we see, and I know this from the corporate world, adopting something just because it's the buzzword of the time. Beware, because there's a point of diminishing returns where that novelty is going to wear off.
Right.
Games, the novelty doesn't wear off. It just transitions into a new fashion, a new type of game that people are interested in. Right now, the big buzz game is survival. So I encourage teachers, use the survival aspect of Minecraft to power that experience. It's not just about the block building. It's not about the overall tool that is Minecraft. But the fact that you can use it to create so many different types of games and constantly be changing role play, immersive environments, scenarios, the whole 9 yards, that's what makes it powerful.
I think there was a gentleman, Immersive Mind, that had made a comment of, keep in mind that it's not the magic bullet. This is a tool in the toolbox. I think that was more so my reply to him, but he was basically saying, be careful, because this isn't like the super magic, everything should be game-based learning for everyone all the time because games are awesome. You got to be reserved with it.
Right. I'm looking at this as not replacing teaching or the teacher, but as a reinforcer in the classroom. So when I start working on my study here for my dissertation, we're going to go out, the teacher is going to deliver the content, and then the students are going to be invited into the Minecraft world to experience and work and reinforce that content with that game environment. And versus just, again, giving them that 20-problem math worksheet to practice this particular way of doing math. So it's not going to replace, it's going to reinforce. And then, of course, you want to use it sparingly. You don't want to beat that tool to death. So.
Excellent points. All right, so should teachers be learning about educational game design in pre- and post-service instruction, and what would this look like? That was Q3.
See, and this is where I'm completely biased, because I say absolutely 100%, and to the point of Because I think they are. They're just using different, bigger words that educators like. That if you're learning about player engagement. Well, over here you're learning about student engagement.
Right.
Over here you're learning about scaffolding. Over here you're learning about level progression. It's all the exact same thing. They're just using different words. And to me, that gets so frustrating when I hear anyone discredit game design because I'm like, well, you're just doing game design, but you're calling it a classroom, and rather than calling them players, you're calling them students, and you're learning it. You're just not marketing that way.
Even up to the assessment pieces.
Mm-hmm.
There's no game out there that doesn't assess.
There's got to be one somewhere.
I honestly, I don't think there is. If anybody out there has an example of a game that does not assess something, that does not keep track of a score, that's intrinsic in a game.
Yeah.
Sims?
It keeps score. Yeah. You have certain levels of scores.
All right, fine.
Is your character dying or not? Sims 3, did you kill your character off? Right? This is an opportunity to assess and develop our skills in the game, and the game tells us when we're doing something wrong. I challenge anybody out there. Tell me a game that doesn't require assessment, and I'll probably tell you that it's really not a game. I think every game has to have some level of competition, whether it be competition against yourself or against a computer or against another person that's intrinsic in a game, which requires self-assessment or game-based assessment. Right. And so I think I wholly agree with you on the point that every educator is a game designer. The only key thing that I see is missing in most of our lesson designs is the fun. Mm-hmm. It's that level of fun and failure, the opportunity for successful failure.
Yeah, my tagline has always been, school is just a very poorly designed game.
Yep. It's been said by a lot of people. I think it's right. So it's an imperative that, we do teach our educators to be game designers, to at least understand the concepts and the fundamentals that surround them in order to really say, I can integrate this easily without a lot of extra research. I don't have to be a professional coder. I don't have to be a professional 3D art designer in order to create a good, scaffolded, and fun activity for my kids. Mm-hmm. Mark, your thoughts. Anything strike you as really relevant in terms of the comments that came out over on TweetDeck?
Yeah, I really, the way I'm running the program here at BGSU, the students are engaging and they're scaffolding one another in the development of the game. So one of the comments was, well, teachers learn from their students and vice versa, and that's perfectly true. I am learning from my students things I don't know about Minecraft, and then I can then turn around and reteach those to subsequent semester courses as we move through this process. So this collaborative environment, it's been very interesting. This last spring semester, 16 weeks, I had 42 students, 8 of which who had moderate to exceptional skills in Minecraft, and the other 34 had no idea what we were doing and thought I was absolutely out of my mind when I said, hey, we're going to play in Minecraft and make content for potential students down the line. But they were super engaged through the entire process. As I stated, I had to freeze my students often because they would be so engaged in what they're doing and what they're learning that I had to get their attention in some manner, and of course they'd be upset about it. So, I probably got way off topic there, but
I was going to say, I don't know if I'm going to be reinforcing stereotypes here, but one of the professors that I had using Minecraft EDU this semester was teaching geology, and she had a team of our hockey players going in there and building out different geological formations and then narrating them. In the Minecraft world, and you go, they weren't necessarily your stereotypical Minecraft player.
Sure, and I get that every semester now. I want to take this beyond just the College of Education here at BGSU.
Oh, sure.
I want to walk this into the School of Arts, and we have a great 3D digital art program. I want them to make textures, to make models. I want to walk this over to computer science and have them use computer craft and work with coding. I want to take it over to architecture. Now, it's not going to be completely lifelike and realistic, but at least they can discuss some architectural.
Honestly, you would be surprised. In fact, it's very interesting. Noxy Woxy, hello. I'm PB Jelly Games. You know me very, very well, my friend. He's in the chat actually asking a particular question on have we encountered Pixel Painter or Build Battle games on the Hypixel network, and there's lots of these iterations, and I'll take that opportunity to tie back into sort of my experience with the overall traditional Minecraft community, the non-educational side, and you've got build teams like Blockworks who James Delaney, the managing director of Blockworks, absolutely fantastic build team member, and he is an architect by background. He's an architect by training. And it's amazing when you see the types of structures that we as builders in the community and we as build teams and build groups can put together. So it may not look, synonymous to, your White House, but it gets pretty close. And it's very interesting because you've got to think about a lot of the things that do need to be thought about deeply in architecture that simple artistic methods don't require, right? So there's very interesting concepts there with these pixel painters, these build battles, these architectural designs, all this sort of design and development side of the community. Taking those and putting them into the training experiences that you put your teachers through means they're capable of creating their own Minecraft games. And it means they're capable of teaching their students how to create the Minecraft games. And I think that's the objective that I think all of us really want to see. I know what I do personally. I want to see kids becoming their own educational game creators. And when we can get to that point, and Stephen Isaacs is one of my absolute heroes because of how he's using Minecraft as a game design tool in the classroom. When we get students to that level where they can start building their own educational games, we know the saying, you learn more from teaching others than anything else. And if students are teaching each other via game design, game development, via putting together a course outline that is required to be put into their game, I think it's a beautiful mirror or meshing of our educational requirements and kids having fun and being engaged. Maybe even a little off topic, I apologize.
That's where I think it's perfect, actually, because you go, where I know kind of the game design and the curriculum design have worked perfectly is when you don't see the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's student-driven, student-run, student curiosity, and there's a slight bit of steering in the background that the educator can kind of guide and shift and kind of slowly manipulate, but it's very, very subtle. And it's, honestly, if it's invisible, it's the best.
Yeah. I love the term authentic. I use it all the time. You guys know I use it all the time. Authentic is not somebody standing over your shoulder telling you what to do.
You need to jump now. You need to place a block now. You need to... Thanks.
My students with the course, they are, they're autonomous. They're working with their 5-person group. Yes, I'm facilitating, but I'm more in, okay, well, here's how you place a water block to get flowing water going. I'm not really saying, well, maybe you need to have this here. That comes in the lecture piece where we talk about ways to use narrative to engage students, and then they're running with it. And I posted a couple times my YouTube channel with the product videos, their walkthroughs. Look at them and see. Those were their ideas, their own thoughts, and how to engage a student with that curricular topic. So, yeah, I enjoy that role of facilitator and watching them grow and develop as they work with this project.
And I've seen that as being the hardest shift for kind of traditional teachers to make. I've had a couple instructors kind of come to me after kind of a very game-heavy session, and they go, I didn't do anything, but that they were learning, and is that okay? And it's a very...
It's a scary place for a teacher to be in, right?
It is, because they were like, I don't think I did anything, but they were all really engaged and really learning, and like I said, that's where kind of that cognitive dissonance comes in, and,
right.
And it's that major shift from what they know to what they just saw. And that's something I think you do have to experience it.
And direct to that point, what's very interesting about that is if a teacher is the game designer and has designed the games and the mechanics within the game, and I keep going back to games and creating an actual game-based learning instead of the post-reflective pieces and things like that. But if you actually create it effectively, let the students go and play it, then you know that you've designed it in a way that the information that you were typically supposed to stand up on your lecture hall and provide is getting out. But it's getting out in a comfortable way for the students. It's getting out in a way where I'm sitting in class, I have to listen, I have to take notes, becomes the act of taking notes, as opposed to, I want to learn this because I have a bigger goal. The goal is to complete the game. So I need to learn this, and I force myself to learn it. Not force myself to learn it. I'm learning it because it's part of the fun.
Where it does get scary, though, is that you don't have that control over it. And
yeah.
I mean, in the all fairness, is sometimes it does go completely wrong. And I have seen games that were designed, and you see a group of students, and you're like, how did we get from here to there? And I mean, that's kind of the iterative process then for the classroom design as you go, how did that happen? Is that something I should have intervened earlier? Should I have stirred them this way? Or, where did I steer them wrong? So, I mean, it kind of goes back to it's not that magic bullet. It is something that you still need to be there, kind of steering the ship.
Yeah.
But it's not flawless. It can be dirty, it can be messy, it can be a little bit more chaotic because, and I had another kind of teacher make this comment to me of, no one's ever gotten fired from lecturing. You get hired because you lecture.
Yeah.
And if a department head comes down and sees your students just playing games, that's a different explanation. That's breaking that expectation.
There's definitely a fear.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a challenge because there's an opportunity to get it wrong, and then how do you explain that?
Right.
How do you justify it? Again, I take it back to me. If we train teachers to think about the things that are required in game design so that it doesn't go wrong, or it goes as right as possible, and then
I think that's a better term.
Goes as right as possible, yeah.
Right, because even lectures go wrong sometimes.
Yeah. We have a gentleman, Xavier Flores, who would like to join in the conversation. I've never done this before, had anyone else, but it's up to you guys. Would you like to invite somebody else to come in?
Sure. I've seen him tweeting kind of as we're talking here, so.
Yeah. Maybe get some additional people's thoughts into here. So he'll jump in. We'll move on, and maybe he can come in on the sort of tie-off points. But Q4 was what benefits result from strong game-based learning implementation. We've kind of over-covered this. So do we want to go directly and skip that one to where do we start to look for implementation exercises, implementation approaches, best practice methodology, things like that? Welcome, Xavier Flores.
Hey, guys.
I'll get you to pause the video in the background.
Yeah. Let me, how do I turn that one off? There we go.
There we go.
Welcome.
Sorry, I didn't mean to crash your party.
It's okay. Realistically, I've been thinking of setting up the Minecraft Ed Afterchats as a little bit more of a group thing and bringing in more people from the community to sort of balance out the points and get some questions asked in real time. So perfect opportunity. Did you have any particular questions that you came to the table with, Xavier? Or thoughts?
No. So, one of the two guys mentioned something about trying to develop or offer a gaming master's degree or program, something like that.
Game-based learning master's program, yeah.
Yep, that's something that we're currently have bound up in red tape and shoved in a corner. I shouldn't say it that way either.
No, worry, I'll edit that part out.
All right, yeah, it's in committee right now. We're kind of discussing what does this look like, and what do we think, what does someone who would graduate with a master's in game-based learning, what does that person look like? Who would an employer be hiring with that expectation of if that was kind of on the degree?
So it really does kind of drive back to the points that we're making, where game-based learning is, it requires a little bit of knowledge. It requires knowledge to be implemented correctly. Not necessarily do you need a full master's degree in it in order to utilize the techniques as a teacher, but is it something that really should be focused on? So,
and that's something that actually leads right into our Q5 is where do you go for it? And we found that left to themselves, if you're a gamer, you're going to use game-based learning. If you're not a gamer, it's not something that's going to naturally come to your professional development table to be learned. And we've got this population of students who are getting their bachelor's degree in education. We have students who are in digital animation game design. Wouldn't it be great if we could put them in a cohort together and have them learn each other's terms and vocabulary and end up producing these educational games?
I think, again, one of you guys said, when you were talking about teaching, for the next the next group of teachers this, but currently you're finding that you're teaching the older, set of teachers right now. I kind of think that game-based learning is becoming popular as people from my generation, like the Nintendo generation, are now adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
there's certainly more acceptance.
Yes.
Not certain of whether or not it's become popularized yet, but there's certainly more acceptance to the ideas. And with research, I think, and that's one of the biggest challenges that we have in education. We call it the slow-moving ship, because before we're going to make that course correction, we want to make sure that the research is there and we properly planned our route out, because in education, they say, we cannot fail. Education is too important to fail. And I do agree with that. But, again, game-based learning is coming to that stage where we're starting to accept it. What we need now is more data. We need more teachers feeling comfortable using it in order to effectively get that data, really, too. Was that to the point that you were making, Xavier?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, you need more teachers comfortable, playing games themselves.
Yeah, we're exploring here at BGSU in our classroom technology master's program with offering game-based learning, or what I'm doing with the Minecraft with the undergrads, to the teachers that are out in service right now, and that's someone who might be teaching for 5 years or have been in the field for 25 years. But this master's really focuses on them going back then as tech mentors in their schools. So they would take on roles of maybe technology coordinator or tech integration specialist. So to answer Andrew's, where would they go with this master's? Maybe it should be something that's bundled with a tech integration specialist. Somebody is working in a school district who is engaging teachers then with technology to utilize in their classroom. And GBL just happens to be, my screwdriver in my toolbox that we're going to use for this instance. So we're working on it. It's just, again, we're at the cusp of this. So, what does it ultimately look like? I don't know. We're still getting there. We're going in the right direction.
But I think having it in the master's program like that is adding validity to the discussion.
It validates it, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so all of a sudden that person gets hired in as that tech integration specialist. Then all of a sudden those side conversations, those conversations by the coffee pot start happening and going, oh, you're having a hard time with this learning objective. Well, I know this game that talks about this, and let's try that. And I think that's really the pace of the integration of this. It's one classroom, one learning objective at a time.
Yep. At least until we develop a sort of stabilized research base that validates it among the community. But again,
I don't even think we have that for traditional classrooms.
Okay, valid point. Valid point.
And we've been doing that for a couple thousand years, so I won't wait for that one.
Yeah. All right. Valid point. I think the other side of that argument becomes make teachers comfortable with games and education. And somebody made the point, I forget who it was. and I'm going to not attack it, but I'm going to debate it here. That teachers have to be game players, and I think there's a lot of fear around if you're not a gamer getting into games. If you're not a gamer, if you're growing up in the mentality of, well, I don't game, I go out and I play sports and I do this and I do that, and I just can't see those kids are sitting and spending 10 hours a day on a game. Come on now. So there's a huge stigma attached to that, and I think one of the things that I really want to point out is you don't need to be a hardcore gamer in order to understand game design context, and how to design education as a fun learning experience, as a gameful, game-based learning experience.
One of my favorite, sorry for interrupting, but I was just going to say, one of my favorite populations of instructors are these reacting to the past. They're mostly kind of history professors, but what is absolutely unique about them is the vast majority of them are not gamers. I went to they have a game development conference every year. I went to there, and I actually explained, because they use D6 for everything, and I explained how percentile dice worked, two 10-sided dice, and it kind of tooting my own horn here, but it blew them away. They were like, so I shouldn't just add +1 to this dice roll because whatever? And you're like, no, you're really messing with the game balance, and you should only have 1 or 2% sway, and you can't do that with a D6. And that conversation was so foreign to these history professors that, like I said, as far as this is a population of most definitely not gamers using some of the most intensive game-based learning that I've seen.
Yeah, and it works. And
phenomenally.
Yeah. So, to all you educators out there, don't worry about, and we say this all the time in the Minecraft Ed community, do not worry about being the expert. Your students are experts in Minecraft. They understand it. They understand what they like. Talk to them about it. Learn from them. But on the flip side of things, from a PD perspective, the Minecraft Ed chat happens every single week. The elements are out there. A lot of resources were shared for how you can get access to learning more about game design and game-based learning. Do the research. The research is out there. And if you do, you don't have to be an expert at Minecraft. As long as you understand the basics of how to put together a game, you can create powerful learning experiences with that. So no need to fear. And I think that's a big goal of PD, is to break away that veneer of fear around this is a brand new tool, it's a brand new way of doing things, this is absolutely crazy. And so we have to start chipping away that brick wall. What are your thoughts, Xavier?
No, I completely agree. When I first started using Minecraft about a year ago.
Now, are you a gamer by background?
I grew up, total, Nintendo and PlayStation, casual.
Yep.
But, when I started using Minecraft in the classroom, I tell people, I said, I couldn't even build a stick. I was like, I don't know, just go, I was building little dirt huts and stuff. I said, I don't know, but here's what.
Oh man, who let him in here?
I know. Said a year ago.
Okay.
No, but like you said, it's not my job to be the expert. The kids are. My job was to kind of be like the captain of the ship, But here's what the objective was of the day, or here's what the goal, what I wanted you to do with Minecraft. Now go figure out how to do it, because I know you guys know how.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
I mean, it's that guidance. It's that, what's the term that I'm looking for?
Guide on the side rather than
facilitator.
Facilitator, yeah.
Oh,
that's what I was looking for. Guide on the side works. I mean, it rhymes. Yeah. I like it. Well, all in all, are there any other places that you guys go to for research, for information, for understanding on game-based learning and how games influence and how we can use the influences of games in our classrooms?
Rules for play.
On this point. Rules for play?
That's a great book.
Okay.
It's kind of a mainstay out there to look at. But yes, I mean, just grab as much literature as you can find. And we were discussing earlier, it's a little light in terms of digital game-based learning and what's out there in research journals and texts, but it is starting to trickle in. So I think in the next couple of years we will start seeing more authentic research being done and then distributed about digital game-based learning. But it's out there if you look. It's just hard to find.
My favorite conference on game-based learning has to be the Games Learning and Society Conference. It's out of Madison, Wisconsin, and it's I always say this is hardcore educators who happen to be gamers. So it's really kind of primary research, kind of PhD level research into what games can do in educational spaces. It's a phenomenally designed conference. I think it's on its maybe 12th iteration. And I could be wrong on that too, but they've been around for a while, and they kind of started that conversation and really brought it to the main stage.
Awesome. Xavier, is there any place that you go to for understanding around how to design your games? Aside from Skyping me?
Yeah. Well, I like the Google Plus Minecraft education community. They're always real good about, sharing their work and answering questions.
You also mentioned that Reality is Broken, Jane McGonigal.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. When you were talking earlier about what makes a game interesting or exciting, what grabs people in, she gave a talk. I went to an ISTE conference, and she was the keynote, and she gave a talk all about, the components that make games, captivating, and it reminded me of that.
So, yeah, Jane McGonigal is definitely one. If you take a look at TED Talks and just do a search on games, you've got Daphne Bellevere, you've got Jane McGonigal, I forget his name, Ted something. Just look it up, TED Talks games, and you'll see a lot of that initial research. One gentleman, I forget his name, but he talks about the different reward elements, 7 elements that drive engagement in games, and one of the big things is reward versus risk. So there's lots of information there to wet your whistle on what elements of games really integrate well with a classroom approach, or what really integrate well in terms of engaging and driving content and learning and mechanical learning in play there. Another couple that I would recommend everybody sort of takes a look at is the Games and Simulations Network. So get in contact with some of those people. They do some wonderful stuff over there. Look up Glass Lab Games. They have some good research on some great white papers. I haven't had the opportunity for our company. Yeah, Filament Games. I haven't had the opportunity for my company to start. I just don't have the budget to put together white papers, but you can always reach out. Don't mind. I love talking about the topic. So yeah, Filament Games, Glass Lab Games, even Brain Pop does some good stuff. I think Brain Pop is more along the lines of gamification, though, but they still do in a lot of their courses put in some very nice game elements, and I know they talk about it.
I would throw out Institute of Play in there as well.
Institute of Play. And I think they're very connected with Glass Labs Games. But yeah, Institute of Play is a beautiful one. Games for Change, serious games, research on all of those topics and just wet your beak on what is it about games from a scientific, especially if you're a non-gamer. If you're a non-gamer, this is the best place for you to start, because you get to take a research-based approach to just shifting your pedagogy a little bit in this more engaging direction. All right.
There's a new book out from the Pirate.
Go ahead.
There's a new book out from the Teach Like a Pirate series. It's Play Like a Pirate.
Yep.
It's about gaming. I haven't. I was curious if you've had a chance to read it or
it's on the
read
list.
about it.
Yeah, they're on my list as well. Michael Matamera, I believe, does XLAP, as well, Explore Like a Pirate. So there's a lot of concepts that I've seen come out of those books. I've read some summaries on it, on some of the chapters, and a lot of concepts come out of those for really designing your class as a quest-based experience. Right? And that's your first step. That's your first stage into real game-based learning design, is design it as that experience.
Well, that's Lee Sheldon and what is it, Game-Based Classroom, or I forget the title of his book. Lee Sheldon?
Not familiar with it. I'll have to.
Multiplayer Classroom. That's it.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Multiplayer Classroom. That's a good one. Anything by Prensky, Mark Prensky. That's another good one. Greg Topo, he's the USA Today education writer. He did The Game Believes in You. That's another great read. So
I'm just looking through my bookshelf at the moment.
it's
like,
got,
yeah.
got tons of them. So.
I had a couple written down here as well, but they seem to be on a different slip of paper.
Oh, it's flipped.
Learning education games? No, it's not flipped for us. It's
not
for
flipped
you.
for us.
It's not for us. Yeah.
Yep. Volume 2.
Awesome.
It's a free download. Highly recommend it.
Very nice. So there we go. Lots of resources, lots of reasons for effectively implementing game-based learning into your classroom, making sure that it's an authentic experience for the kids, and really it's scaffolding your professional career, because I'm telling you, games are the future. The reality is this cultural shift that we're seeing is not a shift. It is, the revolution is done. Gamers are here to stay. There's nothing we can do to get rid of them, so we may as well join us.
Embrace them, yeah.
Join us. But we've had a great conversation, and I want to thank Xavier. I want to thank you for joining us midway through the chat. But I especially want to thank Mark Stevens and Andrew Peterson, who both work with universities tirelessly to drive game-based learning, game development, tech integration at this new level, this new paradigm of engagement that we're looking at into the classrooms. And I want to thank all of you guys out there for joining us on Minecraft Ed every single week, happening on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. We really appreciate you guys joining. As part of the community, we are creating a learning environment and an ecosystem for really driving powerful results in the classroom. So thank you guys very much. Feel free to ask any other questions that you want on the discussion section, in the comment section of this YouTube video. It will be posted for that. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week on Minecraft Ed, where we're going to be talking about using Minecraft to develop music. Or to help people get an understanding of the intricacies of music and musical theory, and how you get those intangible thoughts across using Minecraft and music. Imagine. So that's going to be a very exciting chat with Allegro and Paula Williams. So please join us on there. And gentlemen, any last words before I make you walk the plank? Mateys.
No, I think we're good.
I'm good here. Great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, any other questions, feel free to forward them with #MinecraftEd, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you very much. We're out of here.